incredibly suspicious of anonymous media reports, but they say, oh, the whole essence of the report is that Secretary War Hegseth jeopardized national security by putting some information onto a Signal chat and sharing it with other members of the administration. Now, I remember he was accused of leaking classified information. I also thought that this wasn't odd. Tell us what the report really says that the media isn't telling us.
So, yeah, the report is going to be released in its unclassified form tomorrow. And, there's a couple of pieces that are classified, so obviously we're not going to talk about that. But overall, when you read it tomorrow, you're going to see that it totally exonerates Pete Hegseth. There's no classified material in those texts. Everything he declassified that he has within his authority to declassify. And that's the majority of what this report talks about. And so I can understand why, a day ahead of time, of course, it went over to the Hill today. And so, the Senate and congressional Democrats, they wanted to put out, the one piece of the report that I knew that this was what they were going to do. There is a tiny little section in there that's really untethered from the rest of the report, where the investigator states their opinion that having this information out there on an unclassified system could have endangered the troops. But the problem is, it is completely untethered from the rest of the report. It doesn't cite to a single source, not a single document, not a single interview, because it's not something that the IG was investigating. They weren't looking at what the impact of this would have been. So they were focusing on classified information. Did he violate that? Did he put out classified information? And the answer is no, totally exonerated.
Wow.
And whether it is a good means of communication or not matters not, because this was something that was standard practice during the Biden administration as well. Again, something that the media doesn't really want to talk about. But this has been used for a while, right?
So that's actually another big part of this report, is it talks about how, the use of Signal, it's not a Pete Hegseth issue. It's not a Trump administration issue. It's a whole of government issue that really, the use of Signal has proliferated ever since, 2020, when, the government shut down for COVID and all of a sudden everybody had to go home. And, for that couple of weeks, the entire United States government ran on Signal. And it's not because they're trying to avoid the Federal Records Act or FOIA or anything like that. It's because Signal is secure so they can talk about it without the Chinese listening in. And so the use of Signal has become, so widespread throughout government, throughout the entire Biden administration. This report actually notes that the former Secretary, Austin, actually used to bring his personal cell phone into the office, into the SCIF, in violation of the law. And that was something that, was passed down to Secretary Hegseth when he took over. And he said, well, I'm not going to do that. And so he wanted to do it a different way, because he wanted to comply with the law. But when he took office, he was told, hey, all of this stuff this is how it's done. It's all done by Signal. And, so that, yes, there is a recommendation that to comply with the Federal Records Act, we need to, look at this and maybe do some training for senior officials on, what the best systems are. But that's not the main point of the article or of the investigation. The main point is that there was no classified information in that text.
Yeah, and that's really important, because the original story suggested outright that Pete Hegseth was sharing classified information on Signal. The IG unambiguously concludes that that was not true, right?
Correct. He is the original classifying authority. He has unfettered discretion to decide what to unclassify, how, and when. It's just like the president. The president also has unfettered discretion to do that.